Hello, my name is Dwayne Lemon.
And I'm Lance Wilbur.
And we want to welcome you to a true knowledge of self, where we get a knowledge of ourselves from a biblical perspective. We want to welcome you all and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be continuing from where we left off in this incredible testimony as we were listening to Brother Lance share with us how God was leading in his life. And we see that he's gone through several experiences, and it was quite incredible to see how he was ingrained and deeply into the hip-hop culture, especially the intellectual aspect, which is really different from a lot of what other people look for. Most people think just about the fun aspect, and I'm sure he did have fun. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. But, nevertheless, we also know that there's another side that Lance was talking about this when he was interviewing myself, but he's now going through this in his own experience, where he was talking about the intelligence and all of these things that also is a strong, influential power coming from the hip-hop and R&B culture. We saw that Lance grew up in a home where dad was not around often and mother was there struggling, trying to do what she could to rear him up and his little brother. And we also saw that television and the basic street lifestyle was there, pulling at him, grabbing at him, and just consistently trying to draw him into their mold. And we saw that he was starting to be formed in that mold, little by little, even to the point that he found himself being the reflector of other men's thoughts and presenting a lot of philosophies and ideas, rejecting religion, and the list goes on. And we want to pick right back up on that, Lance, and I want us to go ahead and continue talking with our viewers and just getting an idea. Here you are at this stage, you're a teenager, you're a young man, and you're going through these experiences where right now religion is definitely a turnoff, especially as it related to Christianity.
Yeah.
But then also you're finding yourself more so with the 5% movement and just looking at what's coming in through that, all the influences, the culture, the lifestyle. Was there anything else that was also a grab in your mind in a positive way that was pulling you while you were also engrossed in this hip-hop lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was really into the sports. Like I said, I was always big. I was a three-sport athlete. So even from a little kid, I was too big for Pop Warner, but there was other football leagues. So I was playing football, I'm playing baseball, I'm playing basketball. And as I start to get older into my teenage years, I'm getting taller and, slimming down and growing taller. So I began to gravitate towards basketball just because it was just more appealing. Baseball became increasingly boring, and it's not compatible with, doing what I was doing, living the lifestyle I was living, and then sitting out, playing outfield or first base for 2 hours in a 95-degree heat. So, the apex of my baseball career, I do tournaments in Canada, pitching and it was good, but it wasn't like basketball. Football was good, but I didn't like to destroy my body in practice and have these people yelling at you and you play 12 games a season or what have you in high school. So I was recruited in those regards for high school athletics, but basketball became my passion. Basketball became what I did. And I didn't really pick it up until, maybe 10, 11 years old. But once I started picking it up and getting serious with basketball, I quickly excelled. So I was playing varsity in my freshman year in high school, and that obviously continued. And to the point where as early as 10th grade, I'm getting invitations, letters to, hey, we appreciate. Now, I hated school. I hated reading and I hated school. So I did not participate in class. I skipped school, I skipped class. I was pretty much left to myself to get myself up and to school every day. So school was just a mess for me. But I would get letters from D1 schools saying, oh, we value your B+ average, your grade point average, and we can't wait to, and all these enticing letters, Syracuse and Miami and Fordham, Rutgers, Washington, and several others, local schools. And I was getting those letters in 10th grade. I was starting, when I moved to another city, I started, the coach, he was at that time, I think he had the record for the winningest coach in high school basketball. And he started coming to me and saying, hey, we're thinking about sending you to this camp. Don't worry about the payment, we'll take care of it. Oh, shoes, different little things, incentives to play, summer league. And I'm telling you, I am a poor student. I didn't go to school, rarely. I didn't do homework. But they're giving me all these incentives to do these things. So I enjoyed it, I pursued it, but at the same time, I did not appreciate the whole culture of athletics and kind of the clique mentality and everybody having to ingratiate themselves to the coach and kind of be at the certain functions. And I didn't want anything to do with that. And I was completely against it.
Now, when I didn't get a chance to share this in my testimony, but we're going to talk about this in later episodes as well. There were two influences that were working in my life when I was really into the hip hop culture. Obviously, hip hop was one of them, but the other one was martial arts. I was really, really heavy into martial arts. And when I was doing martial arts, I found that I had to get to a point to make a choice. Which one am I really going to pursue fully? Martial arts and I love both of them. Now, I can phase out of that for myself, but I'm curious for you. You're in basketball. Did you see that the two were blending hip hop culture and what you were trying to do and holding the lines and keeping it in its pure state with the underground movement? And then, of course, you're also now pretty much pursuing like a basketball career. Did you find that they blended, or did you find that they were at variance one with the other and you had to make a choice?
Yeah, I definitely had to make a choice. Again, elite athletics, when you want to go to that next level where that's all you're going to live, eat, sleep, breathe, when you go to that level, smoking cigarettes, smoking weed every day, drinking alcohol every day is not compatible with elite athletics. It's a lifestyle. And am I going to go to practice for 3 hours after school and do double sessions? Am I going to do winter league and summer league and go to camps and all that? Or am I going to continue my lifestyle and pursue the hip hop and, you know, do the shows and do the battles and be where I need to be? And now there's another, you know, key dynamic in this whole thing. I'm having a child. You know, my girlfriend at the time, she gets pregnant. So as I'm going in now to make a decision, am I going to go to college or not? Am I going to go and try to see how this is going to play out? Because I could still play basketball and kind of do the MC thing and go to college and still float, but, you know, get through because of the basketball. And she comes into my life, my oldest daughter, and she's born right there, 17. She's pregnant at 16, and then 17 she's born. So I made the decision, if I go to school, there's absolutely no way I'm going to even consider my girlfriend or my daughter back in Massachusetts. I'm going to go away. I was thinking leaning towards Miami or even, you know, Fordham, Rutgers, New York area, New York tri-state area. Be no way. So I said I have to do the responsible thing, even though as an irresponsible, corrupt individual, I have to do the responsible thing and stay close to my daughter. And street life, to me at that time, was way more important than, you know, organized athletics. Because I could still play basketball on the street level, still do tournaments, still do summer leagues, and get the accolades in that respect, keep my craft in that respect, and still excel and pursue my hip-hop career.
Now, I'm curious, because the same way when I saw those women lined up in the hotel room, and, you know, I said to myself, this looks wrong. You know, there was something that was in my head that instilled that was wrong when there was a lot of people around me that felt that was right. Here you are, you're a teenager, and you're at the height of two areas, one in the experience of hip-hop culture in the underground, but then also athletics. But yet there's a principle that's in your head that says, all right, I got my girlfriend pregnant, we're about to have this baby, I need to be responsible. Now, I would imagine the majority of brothers around you during that time were not thinking like that as it relates to when they get women pregnant. A lot of times they're telling them to go to the abortion clinic and you know, whatever. You didn't do this. Where do you think that came from?
I have no idea. I know now, but I had no idea then. And there were strange things like that all the time. Like, you could be so corrupt that you would beat somebody down in the street over anything, a sandwich. It could be. I was in situations where I would commit random acts of violence just because I was upset at some other person that had nothing to do with the people. I would just randomly pick somebody and, you know, beat them down for no reason, no interaction with them. So I would do that and feel no way about it, no problems, no second thoughts, no regrets, and, you know, laugh 5 minutes later and joke 2 minutes later. But then there were other situations where I had this severe moral, you know, unction to do the right thing. And these standards to make right decisions. And hey, don't do that. That's a wrong move. You know, do it like this. So I know God was watching over me, and he was taking care of me and instructing me even in my ignorance. But I didn't attribute it to God at that point. I just considered it myself making right decisions and doing what I felt was right at the time.
Now, when you look at the Gospel of John, it does tell us that there's a time that comes where the Spirit of God is with us and then eventually in us. I'm sure at this stage in your life, obviously, the Spirit of God may not have been in you, but he was with you. He was guiding you and trying to lead you to right decisions, right paths. And I'm sure that we understand today that that was the Lord that was leading for you to do something good or responsible. But my question is, was there anything even in the books of intelligence or anything like that that comes out? Because there's sometimes with people who, they look at hip hop culture and they say, everything about it is wicked. There's no good principles that can come out of it. Yeah. But then you have others who say, well, no, there are some good principles. And therefore, they try to elevate it from that standpoint. I mean, was that a reality in your life with some of the things you were exposed to from a listening? Because I know you weren't reading it, but from a listening.
Yeah, I mean, really the turning point for me was, you know, contemplating. I always refer to it as a midlife crisis. 15 years old, midlife crisis. I'm pretty much sick and tired of the trappings, you know, the girls, the drugs, the money, the violence, all of those things. I didn't have any fulfillment. I did it, and the fulfillment almost expired as soon as the act was completed. And I got sick and tired of the same crew, the same people, hanging around doing the same thing every day. It just became, you know, I was sick and tired. I just didn't like it. So I'm frustrated there. And I remember even as a little child, I didn't know who God was. I didn't know Christianity like that, but I would curse God out. In my mind, God was like a genie. I would pray and say some magic words or say something and say, hey, God, give me this. And if it didn't materialize instantly, I would literally curse God out, you know, audibly. And I didn't understand what I was doing, but that's the way I viewed it. So now, 15, I'm having these questions. What is my purpose? What is the point of human existence? You know, why, the universe, what is it? Is there a God? Is there not a God? So I'm having these questions in my mind, and a voice came into my head and said explicitly, interrupted me, and said, if you want answers, go and read. If you want answers, go and read. Something that I hated to do. I thought it was for a certain sort of people that was below me, and it was unnecessary for me. I had the knowledge that I needed. But I took the challenge. Again, I took it as a challenge. If you want answers, go read. I literally got up at that moment. I got up and went to the high school library, the high school I was attending at that time, and I got out some books. I got out, I think, 4 books or 5. I got a book on shamanism. I got a book on Egyptology. I got a book on philosophy, a big giant college textbook on philosophy, and I got a book on Mars, you know, aliens and stuff, the red planet.
Gotcha.
So I literally took the challenge. If you want answers, go read. I said, no problem. I'm going to go read. And I started to read and study religions, and that led me on a journey that, you know, brought me to where I am today.
Very interesting. So you're on the journey now, and you're reading all these books. Now, one thing I would think is none of these books are in agreement with each other. You know, Egyptology, one moment, then you got another book talking about Mars and aliens, and then you have another book that talks about various philosophies that can come from Chinese culture or otherwise, and not necessarily Egypt. So you're filling your head with knowledge, and you're gaining all this information, but it's possible. Did you notice contradictions?
Absolutely. And the way that I rationalized it was that there was truth in everything. And my job is just to find the truth in everything and bring it together and make my own truth.
Now, is there a type of movement, religious structure, or anything like that that exists today where it just kind of brings about those same principles, you think, where it's kind of like find the truth in just about anything and try to amalgamate it and bring it all together?
I mean, in my opinion, there's plenty. I mean, I think even Christians do that. Muslims do that, where they say, you know what? Yeah, that's true, but I think this is also true. The New Age movement, like we talked about, the 5% Nation. And in fact, how I came across the 5% Nation, I had the early exposure with the individual that came from Brooklyn, but he wasn't really building like that. He wasn't really always trying to convert people. He just mentioned that he was associated with the nation, the 5% Nation. But a friend, a close friend, you know, I call it a close friend, it was just somebody in my crew at this time. His mother was actually one of the Earths. You know, she was part of the Nation. And she had all of the books. She had the 120 lessons and the supreme mathematics, the demonology, she had all of the necessary literature to prepare for examination to enter the 5% Nation. And so what I told myself is, I'm pretty much convinced that the 5% Nation is where I want to be, because I saw it as supreme in the sense that it had some kind of explanation for all the contradictions and discrepancies, and it propped up the individual as the sole controller and the authority, the God, the final law and the final verdict in all decisions. I don't have to consult a book. I decide on the spot, and my decision is law, and my decision is right. So whether that means I have to cut somebody down, or that means I have to do this on the side, or that means I have to think this way or say this or say that, is basic, you know, based on my own interpretation, my own understanding. So I told myself, I'm gonna become a 5%er. But before I do that, I have to read the Quran. I have to approach the Quran and study it, and then go, if my mind is still settled, then go in to study my lessons and go through the process. So, you know, I began that journey, and I found myself going through, you know, 30 books, 40 books, going to the point now where I studied New Age, I studied Buddhism and shamanism and Shintoism, and read books on all of these various religions, some more than others, never reading the Bible, but now I find myself studying the Quran, and to me this is the final transition into where I feel that I need to be.
Now, there are people who use as almost a bragging point or a point of merit that I have read X amount of books.
Yeah.
I understand X amount of languages.
Yeah.
I've been exposed to X amount of religions.
Yeah.
Therefore, I am now an authority on spirituality.
That's right.
What's your thoughts on that?
On those people today, or my thoughts back then?
Your thoughts on people today. I'm curious about that.
Well, it goes down to the root of corruption in humanity. It's selfishness, you know, self-exaltation. The idea that I am the one that determines what's right and wrong. And the idea that there's nobody above me, and there's no standard that is set outside of the standards that I set. The idea of God that has a law, that has a way, that has a standard, and that that not demands but deserves my worship and reverence and respect. I'm the person that should obtain the reverence and the respect based on my standards and what I say is right. So to me, it's kind of a cop-out in a sense, because you can, anytime you're challenged, you can simply, you know, step away from that standard or that principle or that philosophy and just kind of spin it into something else. You can never corner me, because I can just, oh, well, you don't like that, then I can just become this, and I can become that, and I can say, well, yeah, well, that's right in this situation, but it's wrong. You know, so I'm kind of like a chameleon. I'm never really settled into something. What I'm really settled in is to myself.
So truth becomes relative and not absolute.
Truth becomes relative, and there is no absolute, and that becomes, it has a crippling effect. And I think I've seen it in my own life, and I think other people have experienced it as well.
So with that understanding, where was the breaking, transitioning paradigm shift point in your life where these understandings you have today became real to you back then? You're reading all these books, you're going through, now you're going through the Quran, and you're going through the height of heights, as you put it, but yet you understand today that this was leading on a downward spiral.
Right.
What was it that broke this thought process in your mind and put you on the shift now to the understanding you have today?
Right. So when I got that original challenge, if you want answers, go and read, I now became conscious, if you will, of this outside kind of, you know, call it a third eye, you know, this special wisdom that would come to you, revelations, if you will. So I was kind of conscious of that, you know, and I studied meditation, and I was always constantly trying to, you know, follow all these principles and kind of, again, make my own truth based on the things that I would pick and grab from other sources. Eventually, a friend Well, before that even happened, I visited my family down south, and my sister was talking about, oh, I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved. And I didn't know what she was talking about. It was nonsense to me. But she gave me a book. She put a book in my hand. It was Knowing God's Plan for Your Life. It was just a small little book talking about we're all running the race, and the book of Romans and different aspects of Paul's epistles, and I read it, and just took it. Through the course of these reading, I also came across other books. I was visiting a friend at his apartment, and he had a book on the counter called Illuminati 666. And this book basically went through the history of paganism and showed how kind of the biblical war that we were talking about, the great controversy in Bible prophecy, Daniel, Revelation, and kind of broke all those things down. I took that in as truth. That book appealed to me because it had that seal of the United States, the pyramid with the eye on top, that's on the dollar bill. It had that on the cover. I had read another book. My girlfriend, who's my wife now, her cousin came from LA to visit, and he brought this book called The New World Order, and it had that same symbol. So I read that book. When I saw the other book with the same symbol, I said, man, I got to read that book. Another instance, I'm building, we're talking, building these concepts and going in deep, doing the, science and mathematics with two of my friends. We're staying up all night talking nonsense. And eventually I break off from the conversation, go into the closet in my mother's house. In her hallway, there's just a closet. I open the closet, there's a box of books on the floor. I get that box, and it looks interesting. It has these books in there with interesting titles. And I bring it back to my couple of friends there, and we're all excited. We're like, man, look at this book. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take that one. Both of those brothers got locked up, disappeared, and I ended up with a book called Acts of the Apostles that walks through the book of Acts and the experience of the apostles of Jesus Christ after his death and crucifixion. I read through that book and applied it to my knowledge. Eventually, as time passes, and me and my friend are coming out of the mall, we're complaining about haircuts. He was from New York, Bushwick area, Brooklyn, and I was coming from the Boston area. We're in this other city now, and there's no barbershops. There's one barbershop that's no good. We're getting house cuts. I'm taking a train 2 hours to go get a haircut, and we're complaining. We're just, talking nonsense, complaining, joking. We get in the car, and on the car, there's a flyer. And the flyer, normally trash, we read the flyer, and it says, now open, Geometry's Barbershop, $5 off the first haircut. It was right down the block from the mall we were at, and we were amazed. We're like, well, let's go check it out. It's a coupon, and it's right down the street. So we go, we meet the barber, the owner. He's cool. It's literally about 3 blocks from the job that we had at the time, the place where we were working. So I find myself now going to this barber shop, once, twice, 3 times a week, either to get a haircut or just, just to talk, just to hang out. As that continues, we start getting in these religious battles, like these heated, almost fist fight religious battles. And my friend is siding with the barber and the owner. I can't understand it. It makes me furious. And they're talking this Bible. They're talking Bible, Christianity, and they don't understand. I'm telling them, hey, the Bible's half-truths. It was corrupted. Jesus is not God. He shouldn't be worshipped. He's the example of humanity, but he was there to tell us that God is in us. And this is my whole perspective, and I'm trying to embarrass these guys talking about Christianity. All of a sudden, remember, a brother that I'm running the streets with, doing all kinds of dirt, all of a sudden he's talking Bible. I don't understand it. Doesn't make sense. So this went on for several months. Eventually, the barber comes up to me one day. I'm sitting in the shop, and he says, hey, I got a pastor coming through, and he's going to give some Bible studies. I was excited, because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, bring that pastor through, I'll cut him down, just like I've been, cutting you guys down and embarrassing you this whole time. But, in the 5% Nation, they called it cutting heads, chopping necks. We, embarrass weak Christians and use their own stuff against them. So I sat there and waited, closed the shop. There's about 25 of us or so sitting in this group and having a Bible study. I never even heard of the concept. I never studied the Bible. I read it a couple, read Revelation, Ezekiel, some prophecies, never studied it. We go through these studies, and it's the authority of God's word on one side of this piece of paper, and the other side is talking about Daniel chapter 2 and the image of Nebuchadnezzar that we're going to be talking about. And in fact, these are things that I read and accepted as truth in some of these random books I found along the way. And now I'm 60 books in, and I accepted these things as truth. And I'm seeing them for the first time actually in the Bible. I was astonished. I kept my mouth shut the whole time. I went at the end of the study. I asked the pastor, hey, you got any more of those? He gave me a stack of studies, 31 lessons. He gave me a Bible and a retractable pencil. I lost my job. I got sick, lost my job. Every day I did those studies. I woke up, ate, and just did those studies. I did them through once, 31 lessons, again a second time, and halfway the third, and I was absolutely settled in my mind. All of the contradictions, all of the writings about Jesus from the New Agers, from the Muslims, from the Quran, from the NOI, from the 5%ers, saying that Jesus did this, oh, he didn't die on the cross, he did. All of the contradictions that they claimed were completely dismantled. The Bible didn't contradict itself. All of the talk wasn't true. The Bible establishes its own authority, and it explains everything clearly. And my mind was made up. And I come to find out that the pastor was Seventh-day Adventist. Come to find out that the barber was Seventh-day Adventist. My boy that I was running the streets was Seventh-day Adventist. A girl that I was working with, Seventh-day Adventist. All of these Adventists, the books in my mother's house, Seventh-day Adventist books left there by somebody that lived in my house, a friend, and he moved away. He was trying to get with a girl, and he started going to this church, got baptized. They gave him a gift. He left the books when he moved out. The friend that I was building with that got locked up, he was a Seventh-day Adventist. All these people making drug transactions with, suppliers, Seventh-day Adventists. So I found myself now a Seventh-day Adventist. And to me, it was the truth, and there was no way anybody could budge me out of it because I had gone through that journey. That was my mindset then, and essentially it's my mindset now. But I don't think I'm as militant as I once was.
And you know what? I look forward to talking more where we get into some of those, you know, polishing effects that God does in a person's life. Because as you said, militant, so it is that I remember being very militant as well. But we're grateful for the way God works in our lives. And I really appreciate you sharing the things that you shared with us, brother. And I trust that to our viewers that this is something that I would trust would pose a powerful blessing to you all. I really want to thank you all for joining with us today. Lance, I want to thank you for sharing with us your testimony. And I hope that this has overcoming power to all of us that's going to be able to help us to know how we can have victory in our own lives. Until the next time, join with us in our next episode. And remember, Proverbs 2 and verse 6, it is God that gives wisdom, and out of his mouth comes knowledge and understanding.